Welcome to another wonderful episode of Beacons of Light. And today we've got a really special guest, Sylvia Weatherspoon from WBRZ Channel 2. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm used to turning on the TV and seeing you, and here you are right here. And I get to be a big shot today. I'm on with somebody that's been on TV for 20 plus years.
Yeah, and I feel like we've flipped the script because I'm usually in your
That's
seat.
right. I get to ask the question,
Yes.
those hard questions. And that's a nice thing about being in the charity business. You always ask nice things
Yes.
about how the kids doing
Yeah.
and the difference we make in the community.
Yes.
So tell us about Sylvia. What makes Sylvia that wonderful person? You turn on the TV, you even make the bad news sound good.
Oh, wow, thank you for that. You know, I'm not quite sure. My mom was like really happy all the time, it seems like, and I think that's where I get it from. I always grew up with people telling me that I smile a lot. Even when I'm crying, I smile. And so I think that may have something to do with it. I also like to think that it's the light of Christ inside of me that I every day ask God to let that shine, and so I think that's a part of it as well. But thank you for saying that.
Well, I definitely see it. And I remember when you were on the radio.
I know.
I mean, you got a beautiful voice, a beautiful face, and so talented on live, whether it's 10 o'clock or that 10:30 show you do.
Which
and
is goofy.
It's hard to kind of keep up with that,
Yeah.
huh?
Isn't that a goofy show?
It is.
And you get to laugh and have fun and poke a little bit at each other, and so I love that. And it's interactive because viewers are watching, and sometimes they make comments, so we get to hang with them too and interact with them. I love it.
Well, I love the way you started out. You letting the light of Christ shine through.
Yes.
And I've known you on screen, but I've known you off screen, and you do that. And I guess you're inspired by your mom to do that.
Yeah.
And no matter what hits you in life, is that always a focus to always let that shine?
Yeah. You know, my mom, I was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi. And so after I was born, my mom brought me to Baton Rouge. So it gets a little complicated because she was not my biological mother. She was actually my great aunt. So I was raised by my great aunt and my great uncles. I knew my biological father and his parents, my paternal grandparents, but I didn't know the woman who actually gave birth to me. I didn't know anything about her. But my mom, and that's what I called her, my great aunt, Aline Sparks, she loved the Lord. And she loved the Lord. She was constantly praying, and so I didn't have a choice, or anybody around her. She constantly would grab you and she'd want to pray for you, or she would try to offer you words of encouragement. She was just that kind of a person. We were very poor. I grew up in South Baton Rouge in an area known as the Bottom, and we were very, very poor, but my mom still did everything she could to help and give to people. If somebody died in our community, my mom was the one, as soon as she got word, would go out and knock on doors to get whatever folks in our neighborhood could spare to try to prepare food for the bereaved family. I mean, that was the kind of thing she did. She volunteered wherever she could in church. I say I was either at school, on my mom's job because she cleaned houses for a living, or I was at church because she worked, she served, she helped to take care of all of the communion sets and all that stuff. She swept the floors, she cleaned the seats where we sat, and I had to help do all that stuff too. So, I mean, she was just that kind of a person, constantly doing for others, and she instilled that in me.
But she was only financially poor because wealth,
Yeah.
loving the Lord. I can't think of a better compliment you could say to somebody, that she was so much in love with the Lord that it inspired you to attract you to Christ, right?
Absolutely. She dedicated me to Christ when I was a baby. That's the story that she tells me, and I believe it. And so I've always, loved him. I was baptized as a child, but I couldn't remember that. So as an adult, I asked to be baptized again, just so that I could remember it when I talked to people about being baptized, I could really know what I was talking about. So as an adult, I got baptized again. I was still saved regardless, but I just wanted to be able to remember the experience. One more thing about my mom. My mom couldn't read or she couldn't write, but she prayed that God would teach her how to read the Bible. She knew alphabets. And so she would read the words that she could read in the Bible, and then she spelled out the words that she didn't. So every day, some mornings I would wake up to hearing her either on the porch or in the kitchen reading her Bible every day. That's what she did. It's a practice that I have to be honest, I'm not as faithful as she is with reading the Bible, but I try to read or at least get some of his word in me every day. You have to. You just do.
Yeah, she's a wealthy person.
Yeah.
And it's right here in the heart.
That's
where
right.
she's so rich.
Yes.
And thinking about everyone that we take for granted, the ability to read, there she is. She loves the Lord so much that she's struggling just to get through the Scripture.
That's right.
To get enriched, to become even richer.
Right.
And apparently she spread his abundant love, and every day on television I can go on the weekdays and turn you on, and I see that brilliant smile and that upbeat attitude, and letting Christ shine through in a very, very powerful way. That's a beautiful story.
I heard someone say something that I adopted, and I love it. Being hope or providing hope beyond the headlines. And that's how I see it, because a lot of what I do, you know, the first 5 minutes is the bleeds, it leads. You know, that's kind of the format. If there's a shooting or this or that, it's the first
news.
part of the newscast.
Yeah.
And so I've had friends over the years who've asked me, how do you do that? How do you balance, you know, that part of your life, your career, with sharing the good news of the gospel? And I think that's where I picked that up, hope beyond the headlines, because I believe that even though that is the news that I have to deliver, I also know that I want to deliver God's word as well, of his love and his salvation, his mercy, his grace, all of that. And so I get the opportunity to do that just by talking to people, witnessing to people, on social media. I'm able to share his good news through that way. Whatever I can do to share goodness, to make a difference, is another way that I get to do it on Friday nights. Because despite all of the stuff that you see in the first 5 minutes of the newscast, there is much better good going on in our community. You know that firsthand. And so to make a difference, that segment that I do on Fridays is an opportunity to show the good news that people do, the good things that they're doing in this community to serve, to meet the needs of people.
And you're such a great anchor. You've covered St. Vincent de Paul and me on several occasions, but the segments continue because you made us look great.
Oh, wow.
You can do a great interview, but the way you share the stories and you get down to, I guess, the fruit of goodness with the stories, that's as good as any bad news that maybe the news leads off in. And that's important.
St. Vincent de Paul does so much good in our community. If you, Michael, you know this firsthand, think about the people that you serve, not once a week, not just for holidays, every day. You are serving how many people? Hundreds and hundreds of people every day.
Anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people every day.
Every single day.
And
every age, every color. You serve everybody that needs.
And it's a blessing.
So what would happen if these people didn't have St. Vincent de Paul to come to? I can't imagine.
Well, you said earlier, keeping hope alive, you know, and that is an important headline to remember, because that's what we should all be focused on. The bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's always great that people realize that they can make a difference, like you make a difference. And one thing that's always impressed me about you is you're the real deal. You know, meet you on camera, you're smiling and nice, and meet you off camera, you're smiling and nice. And that's a true spirit in Christ. Like your mother wealthy in the heart.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I appreciate so much of what you do. We met in radio when I was working in radio.
That's a long time ago, you
Yes.
know. And you look the same.
Oh, wow.
And your voice is great. It's still awesome, as
Thank
always.
you.
You got a face for TV and a voice for radio. So,
Thank you,
so
Michael.
no doubt about it.
When you think about,
I'm the opposite.
No.
I look better on radio. But,
people. You all have such a stellar reputation.
Wow.
You know that in this community.
Yeah.
When I started Sylvia's Toys for Christmas, and I guess we can get into that a little bit later, but when I really started it I think it's 5 years this year, milestone.
Yeah.
One of the questions was, where are you going to give the toys?
Right.
St. Vincent de Paul was just automatic to me. Like, I never thought beyond the fact that it would be you guys, because I know I've reported on all that you do for so many years, so I knew that whether it was 20 toys or 200 toys or 2,000 toys, that they would be distributed and well taken care of by the charity here and the people that you all serve.
Well, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
We are going to get into that because it's a great story about how it all came about.
Yes.
And it's very inspiring. But let's just talk a little bit about, kind of revisit. You are, I always think of spiritual growth as something that we're always trying to, no matter where I get in my spiritual life, it's like I'm on a road and I'm trying to get to that destination. And where do you feel you are in that path of letting Christ's light shine through you and growing spiritually? I'm
still growing. Look, I put these little yellow sticky notes on my mirror, and they cover my mirror. But I saw this, and I put this, one of my prayers is that God would shape my mind. And I said, God, I wrote this down. It was just my prayer. God, shape my desires so that they line up with your plan and your purpose for my life. And I have it, I try to put my little sticky notes, the ones that mean the most to me, closest to me, when I'm standing in the mirror, that they're right in eye shot level so that I can say those every day, profess those every day. I am very much still on this journey. It took me a while to really understand my purpose. I know a lot of people struggle with that, trying to understand why you're here. And I finally got to a place where I understand that I was created for the sole purpose of sharing who Christ is to others in the world. And so whatever the journey is that he leads me on, I trust that more than I trust myself. I say that all the time. God, I trust you more than I trust myself for my journey, the steps that I take. There's a scripture that talks about how God will direct your path. And so I know that if I listen to him and follow that path, he will lead me on the journey that he's created for me. And so my prayer is always that I would just open my heart and my mind to really trust in what he say and to make my desires the desires that he has for me. That my desires would line up with the plan and the purpose that he has for my life.
And that's a great way to end this segment. God has a plan, and we've got to open our minds and our hearts to that plan. He's got a destination for us, and that's what it's all about at St. Vincent de Paul. You heard us talk about the Christmas toy effort, and when we come back, we're going to explore that, how it all started, and what a wonderful way of how people, when they're really focused on trying to let Christ shine through, how good things can happen in our community. For over 20 years, the St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy has served our area. We provide prescription medicines for those who have nowhere to turn for this most basic healthcare need. Please, if you need your medicine or you know a family member that needs their medicine, contact us. Kay, how can they get in touch?
383-7450.
Give us a call today and spread the word so that we can ensure no one goes without their prescription medication. Over 5 years ago, I got a great phone call from Sylvia, and she called me, I'll never forget. She said she was having a birthday party, and part of that birthday party was people were bringing Christmas toys for needy kids for her, because you said you had everything, and you asked your friends to bring those Christmas toys for your birthday, and that was powerful. And how did that happen? What's the genesis of that?
Let me tell you who inspired me. Little Trevor Sims. Everybody remembers that sweet, precious little boy who, in the short time he had, I think he was about 12 when he passed away from cancer, but he did this phenomenal thing in our community where he brought the entire community together, and they called it Trevor's Wish, where he wanted to collect food. And they had a week-long food drive, and he collected food, partnered with the Baton Rouge Food Bank, and donated the food to them. When I was interviewing Trevor, he said, anybody can do anything, a little thing, a hug, a smile to make a difference in somebody's life. And he said, I told him I was interested maybe in doing something to help kids, and he says, well, Miss Sylvia, I'm sick, I'm dying, and I'm doing this. So what's your excuse? And that motivated me so much. So I'm going to say it on TV.
Yeah.
And I just said, we're collecting toys for Christmas for kids.
Yeah.
And then what blew my mind was that people started calling saying, where do the toys go? What do you want me to do? And so I said, St. Vincent de Paul. Wait a minute, I hadn't even called Michael to make sure that's okay. So that's how it sort of started. And the first year was small, but still powerful. And then the second year it got bigger and bigger. We have not only been able to donate hundreds of toys and money to St. Vincent de Paul, but the year when 2016 happened, we also provided toys for 13 schools in flood-impacted areas. So that was, I'm just blown away by the generosity of our community, and you see that every day.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
And I remember that first Christmas pulling up to your house, because you were the warehouse. You were the Christmas warehouse.
And I had my friends over. I said, we're going to call ourselves the Wrap Sisters, because I was trying to wrap all those toys. And you said, we have volunteer wrappers.
That's right, we do. And we were in desperate need of these toys to reach more children, and we have. It's been a wonderful 5 years, and you know, I don't think there's a better bunch of rappers than you and our crew at St. Vincent, you know, no doubt about it. And the lives that have been touched, it's just phenomenal. And you've been blessed. You've given out toys, but you've also been there when Bishop Munch did it for years, and then Bishop Duca, his first year last year, he did a great job, didn't he?
He was excellent. It's so amazing to see the children as they walk through those doors and then get up to Bishop Munch, Bishop Duca. Their faces are so huge, you can see the anticipation. It's not even about the gifts, it's about meeting them. And they know that they're going to get a hug from the bishop and all. And I asked Bishop Duca last year, I said, so what is this like for you? Because you're kind of like, is it okay if I say kind of like Santa, but better? And he says, oh, yeah. And the kids, he's so great with them.
He had a great first year. We're thankful for him, thankful for Bishop Munch for all those years.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're there, giving the toys, making sure we get 8-year-old toy.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know,
what
it's
a
like,
system.
It is a system, isn't it?
Your volunteers are amazing.
They are, yeah. And I think we talked earlier in the earlier segment about keeping hope alive. And without the people that do the good, you do stories all the time, good stories, and we can all make a difference. And you know, that's what it's all about. You know, just like you know, you were inspired. Others need to open their ears and their minds to special people, and let that bright light of Christ shine through, right?
And you know what blesses me even more is when I go to the area where the setup where folks are bagging the toys and wrapping the toys. A lot of the times your volunteers are children.
Yeah.
And even on the distribution day, a lot of the times the kids, it's kids there. I remember interviewing a young man, I think maybe he was 11 or so, but he says it's hard for me to imagine that there are kids that don't have toys. And so this is really great that I get to help wrap a toy, and I think about what it must feel like for them to open up a brand new toy. I didn't get very many new toys when I was a little kid either. A lot of my toys were hand-me-downs, you know, and so to experience that from their standpoint, because I really am a kid at heart.
Yeah, me too.
There's a picture of me in The Advocate from a couple of years ago, and they captured me when one little child started opening his bag.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, and I went, oh, you know, I was as excited as he was,
Yes,
you know, to see the
indeed.
toys that they get. That it does give them hope.
Right.
It says to them, somebody cares about you.
Right. Yeah, it's a strong message. It's a powerful
strong
message. And what a powerful way to let God touch them in
That's
that
right.
way through,
Absolutely.
you know, through us by just saying, hey, the world's a great place.
The world's a great place. And you're planting a seed because they will think about this. Think about this.
That's exactly
when they're
right.
15 years old, they may
That's
decide,
right.
I want to go and volunteer
Right.
at St. Vincent de Paul because when
Right.
we were in need and we didn't have toys or money, they helped me. They
That's right.
showed care for me.
That's
so
exactly
I bet you
right.
some of those little kids are going to show up as volunteers.
I don't doubt it a bit because, you know, when you do something for somebody, the appreciation, the thankfulness, the gratitude,
Yes.
it is, and kids know how to show that.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
do.
Like that little story, I mean, that excitement, when you go from maybe last year, they didn't know about what we were doing,
Right.
didn't get in touch, so that child got something.
Yes.
That's what's so exciting.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely. And I think that is as big a gift or bigger than the actual toy itself. It's
without
just
a doubt.
knowing that somebody cares about them. Somebody took the time to wrap their gift and then to hand it to them, the surprise of knowing that. And most of them I don't think they wait till Christmas morning to open their
I know
gifts.
they don't.
Yeah.
No. Usually we're picking up a lot of wrapping paper in the parking lot. And then, of course, you know,
Yes.
that's just one day. We give out those gifts throughout the community.
Throughout the year.
You know, Major Reginald Brown is very involved with us.
my gosh.
And, you know, we work with law enforcement to get kids gifts
Yeah.
from this collection drive to
Yeah.
needy children. There's just so many parts of Sylvia's Toys, and that's why it's so very important for people to get behind this effort and make it just a win-win for everyone in the
Thank you.
community. But at Christmas time, what a better time to give the message of God's love. I mean, it's a great opportunity.
It's the greatest gift.
It
was
is.
our baby Jesus, right? As
That's
my
right.
kids say, baby Jesus is the greatest gift.
That's
but that's
right.
really, it's become so commercialized now.
That's right.
But and for me, the message, the lesson is bigger than just the toys. As I said, it's just about showing them that somebody cares
Right.
about them, planting that
Exactly.
seed, and then somebody else will come along
Right.
and water that seed, perhaps telling them about, you know, Christ cares for you, and that's why he gave his life, you know, for you to die for your sin and your salvations. Put that in kid-friendly terms for them to be able to understand, so that at some point they can come to know the Lord themselves
Right.
and have a relationship and be the light. You
Right.
know, let that light shine.
Right. And that's, people are attracted to the light,
Yeah.
you know. And people are attracted to, they see God in you and they see that good because, you know, bad and evil dies.
Yeah.
It's dead.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
That's
but
right.
with Christ, like we talked in the first segment about that spiritual growth,
That's right.
you know, those little Post-its, you
Yeah.
know. We talk about wealth. You're a woman full of, you're very wealthy in the Post-it, and that says something because, you know, when you were reading that, I was thinking to myself, this is a woman that is really not only inspiring me, but saying, hey, she is way along in that spiritual growth, gives me something, gives everyone, we can all grow together. And isn't it better to grow together spiritually?
Absolutely.
We have to do that.
Absolutely. And even though for a while, for me, figuring out my purpose, having to often every day deliver bad news, just figuring out how God can use the gift that He's given you, your gifts, your talents, God uses all of that. He created you, He made you to be who you are, but you can use that to glorify Him, to let His light shine through you, to bless others and to meet the needs of others. He's done that.
And that's what our calling is.
That's what our calling is.
And you know, you're a woman that doesn't believe in missed opportunities.
Right.
You know, when God's talking to, I think a lot of people struggle. I know I do. You know, God talks to us every day.
Yeah, He does.
In different ways.
Yeah.
You know.
And my husband says, God talks to you every day. Are you listening?
That's it.
Yeah. Are you listening?
You know, are you listening?
Yeah.
When Trevor was talking to you,
oh my gosh,
God was talking through him to you, and you heard the message. And it's a message of hope. It's a message of sharing God's love. That's it.
Do we have time? I've had the pleasure of working with some elementary school students in the public schools here, because so many of the stories, I've noticed a pattern, and I save and then I throw away, and I save and I throw away stories of children who are 18 and under, who are in a criminal situation, and we end up reporting on them. And you know, they say you do what you feel, what bothers you, that's the thing that you're called to work with. And so I have started this project of getting elementary school kids to create these Valentine's Day cards and write little special notes, and then I take them and deliver them to seniors. It's my way of teaching them kindness and giving back and being loving. And I don't know where that's going to go and what God's doing with it, but I've been doing it for 3 years now.
That's great.
And they just make these sweet little paper hearts with a sweet message, and then I go back, I bring them cupcakes to thank them for doing it and talk about it. And a lot of times the seniors will respond by sending gifts back to them, saying, we love you so much and thank you for your kindness. And I think it's going to take all of us as a community working together and showing love to each other.
That's right. And dispersing that wealth that you did such a magnificent job describing from your mother. Because all that goodness in our hearts, it only comes from one place, God.
From God.
And if we don't share it, what a tremendous loss it is to the world.
Amen.
And so I don't know how I did today anchoring this show.
You were excellent.
I didn't sink yet, but I got a closing to do, and the crew over here always says I struggle with my closings and openings. But it was great visiting with you. And thank you.
Be the light.
Be the light.
I
That's
posted
right.
That. Be the light.
Be the light. And I'm going to try on this closing, but thank you so much for all you do for the community, especially for the kids. Thank you for keeping hope alive and having that make a difference, putting it to work and really making a difference in our community. Thank you, Sylvia.
God bless you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Beacons of Light. We hope you saw Sylvia's energy, and we hope you heard her message of sharing God's love. Go to svdpbr.org and get involved with St. Vincent de Paul. Help us to share God's love with those in need. See you again next week on Beacons of Light.